I paid for my sister's dream wedding while her fiancé did nothing, but she ignored me last minute. I always knew Mia was the dreamer, and I was the doer. The first time I realized I would do anything for my sister Mia was when she was 7 and I was 12. Our parents had been gone for just 3 months, a head-on collision with a drunk driver that left us orphaned and shuffled to our grandmother's cramped apartment. Mia wouldn't eat. Not the mac and cheese grandma made, not the pizza delivery the neighbors sent, nothing. Until one night, I heard her whisper through tears that she missed Mom's cinnamon pancakes. The next morning, I woke up at 5 a.m., found Mom's handwritten recipe card, and destroyed the kitchen trying to recreate them. By the time Grandma shuffled in, horrified at the flour explosion, I had a stack of misshapen, slightly burnt pancakes on a plate. They were awful, except to Mia. She ate 3. And I knew then that I would always be the one to make her dreams come true, no matter how messy the process. That dynamic never really changed, even 20 years later. Mia floated through life on whims and wishes, while I built a consulting business through relentless 80-hour weeks. She majored in art history, then switched to philosophy, then dropped out to find herself in Costa Rica for 6 months. I paid for most of it. Not because she asked, Mia never directly asked, but because I offered, and she accepted with that radiant smile that made me feel like I'd hung the moon. Can you imagine Ava? She'd gush about her latest passion project. It's going to be amazing. It rarely was, but that wasn't the point. Mia's dreams were beautiful, even when they crashed against reality. And I was happy to be the safety net, the fixer, the one who kept her world from completely unraveling. After our parents died, I'd stepped into their shoes the best I could. Being needed by Mia gave me purpose. That's why, when she met Logan Kennedy 3 years ago, I felt an unfamiliar pang of something. Jealousy? Concern? Both, probably. He's starting his own tech company, Mia told me over brunch, her eyes sparkling. He's just waiting for the right investors. Logan was handsome in that deliberate way. Careful stubble, expensive haircuts, and shirts that looked casually rumpled, but probably cost more than my work blazers. He had charisma, I'll give him that. When he spoke about his business ideas, his eyes burned with such conviction that even I almost believed the nonsense coming out of his mouth. Almost. What exactly does his company do? I asked, keeping my tone light. It's an app that connects people with shared dreams. Mia waved her hand vaguely. Like, if you've always wanted to learn guitar but need accountability, it matches you with others who have the same goal. Sounds like every other social media platform, I muttered. You just don't get it, Mia sighed. Logan says disruptors are always misunderstood at first. I bit my tongue. Hard. In the 18 months they'd been dating, Logan hadn't disrupted anything except Mia's savings account. He lived in her apartment, drove her car, and as far as I could tell, contributed nothing except big ideas and bigger promises. When they got engaged, I wasn't surprised, disappointed, but not surprised. Mia called me at midnight, crying happy tears. He proposed at the fountain in Westbrook Park. Just like in that movie we loved as kids, she squealed. It was perfect, Ava. Absolutely perfect. I swallowed my questions about timing, finances, and Logan's employment status. I'm happy for you, Mia Bird, I said, using my childhood nickname for her. If he makes you happy, then I'm thrilled. 2 weeks later, reality hit. Over coffee at my place, Mia's excitement crumbled into anxiety. We can't afford any of this, she whispered, scrolling through wedding venues on her phone. Logan says we should just elope, but... Her eyes filled with tears. I've always dreamed of a real wedding, with flowers and dancing, and everyone we love. I knew what was coming. I always knew. What if I help? I heard myself say. I could cover some of the costs. Mia's expression brightened. Really? You'd do that? Of course. The words tumbled out before I could stop them. You're my sister. I want you to have your dream day. What started as some of the costs quickly became all of them. Logan, it turned out, had been between opportunities for longer than Mia had let on. His startup wasn't just pre-investor, it was pre-everything. Just sketches on napkins and grand pronouncements at dinner parties. So I paid for the venue, a restored historic mansion with gardens that made Mia gasp when we toured it. I paid for the dress, a custom-made gown with hand-sewn beading that cost more than my first car. I paid for the caterer, the photographer, the flowers, the band. Each time I wrote another check, I told myself I was doing it out of love. Each time Mia hugged me and whispered, "You're the best sister in the world," I felt that familiar warmth of being needed, of being important to her. But each time she said it in front of Logan, I noticed something I hadn't before. He flinched. It was subtle, a tightening around his eyes, a slight clench of his jaw. But it was there. "We couldn't do this without you, Ava," Mia said one afternoon as we finalized the menu. "You're making all my dreams come true." Logan, scrolling through his phone at the edge of the conversation, looked up. For a split second, our eyes met, and what I saw there chilled me. Calculation, resentment, and something that felt dangerously like hatred. But then he smiled, that practiced, camera-ready smile, and the moment passed so quickly I almost convinced myself I'd imagined it. "Yeah," he said, sliding an arm around Mia's waist. "We're just so fortunate to have someone like you in our lives." The way he emphasized "someone like you" made my skin crawl, but Mia was beaming up at him, completely oblivious to the undercurrent. That night, driving home, I realized that the wedding I was financing might cost me more than money. But I pushed the thought away. I was being paranoid. Logan might not be my first choice for Mia, but she loved him. And I loved her enough to respect that. After all, that's what I'd always done. Turned Mia's dreams into reality, no matter the cost to myself. I just never imagined the final bill would include my sister herself. I didn't realize the cracks were already showing. I just kept patching them up. The first sign that something was shifting came 3 months before the wedding. Mia and I had a standing Sunday brunch date, a tradition we'd kept since college. But that Sunday, she texted me 30 minutes after our reservation time. "Sorry, totally forgot." Logan's parents surprised us with a visit. Rain check. I sat alone at our usual table, staring at half-empty mimosas while the waitress gave me pitying glances. It wasn't like Mia to forget our brunches, but I brushed it off. Wedding planning was stressful, after all. "No problem," I texted back. "Tell the in-laws I said hi." She didn't respond. When I saw her 3 days later at a meeting with the florist, something felt different. Mia seemed distracted, checking her phone constantly. The vibrant excitement she'd had about the wedding arrangements had dimmed to a rehearsed politeness. "What do you think of the centerpieces?" I asked as the florist presented lavish mock-ups. "They're fine," Mia said, barely glancing up from her phone. "Fine? Last month you had a Pinterest board dedicated just to centerpieces." The florist, sensing tension, busied herself rearranging roses. Mia sighed. "I don't know, Ava. Whatever you think is best. You're the one with all the opinions anyway." The edge in her voice caught me off guard. "I thought you wanted peonies. We can switch." No, Mia waved dismissively. "These are perfect. And Logan's mom said you have excellent taste, so." "You showed her the arrangements?" She wanted to be involved. Mia's tone was defensive. "Is that a problem?" "Of course not. I just didn't realize." "Logan says it's important that his family feels included," Mia interrupted, "since they're not contributing financially. The implication hung between us. Since you're paying, you have a say, but they're going to be my actual family." "Right," I said quietly. "Of course they should be included." That night, I called my best friend Alex. "Am I being controlling about this wedding?" I asked. "You? The woman who let Mia redecorate your entire apartment with thrift store ceramic frogs during her amphibian art phase?" "Please." Alex laughed. "You've been a pushover for that girl since you were kids. Then why does it suddenly feel like I'm being painted as some kind of wedding dictator?" "Because," Alex said gently, "you're not just dealing with Mia anymore. You're dealing with Logan." Logan. The more involved I became with the wedding preparations, the more I began to notice how he operated. He never openly criticized me. That would be too obvious. Instead, it was subtle comments, dropped casually whenever Mia looked to me for approval. You sure you want Ava deciding everything? It's your wedding, babe. Wow, another change from the original plan? Ava must really want this wedding to be perfect. Each comment was delivered with a smile, but the message was clear. I was overstepping, controlling, making the wedding about me. But I wasn't, was I? I was just trying to give Mia everything she dreamed of, the wedding she deserved. I backed off where I could, deferring to Mia's choices even when they didn't make sense. Like when she suddenly decided to change the venue's layout, incurring a $2,000 rearrangement fee. Or when she switched from the photographer we both loved to one Logan's cousin recommended, an amateur whose portfolio made me wince. Are you sure about this photographer? I asked carefully as we reviewed his Instagram page. Blurry shots, awkward poses, harsh lighting. Mia glanced toward the kitchen where Logan was making a phone call. He's giving us a good rate, she whispered. Mia, I'm happy to pay for the photographer we originally. It's fine, Ava, she cut me off. Logan thinks I rely on you too much anyway. The word stung. What does that mean? But Logan walked back and Mia's demeanor instantly changed. She straightened up, smiled brightly, and the subject was closed. Then came the incident with the phone. I stopped by their apartment to drop off sample menus from the caterer. Logan answered the door, oddly flustered. Mia's in the shower, he said, blocking the doorway. No problem. I'll just leave these with you. I handed him the folder. As I did, my phone buzzed with a text. Logan's eyes darted to it, and before I could react, he plucked it from my hand. Let's see what's so important, he said with a playful grin that didn't reach his eyes. Hey, I reached for it, but he turned away, scrolling through my messages. My stomach nodded. There was nothing incriminating there, but the invasion felt deeply wrong. Logan, give me back my phone. He laughed and handed it back. Just joking around. Geez, you're so serious all the time, Ava. No wonder Mia says you're stressing her out. Mia said that? He shrugged. We talk. That's what couples do. He took the menu folder. I'll make sure she gets these. Thanks for stopping by. The door closed in my face before I could respond. 2 weeks later, Mia canceled our final dress fitting, the one we'd been planning for months. I'm so sorry, she said over the phone, her voice strained. Logan's family invited us to their lake house, and he really wants me to go. But the fitting... I know. I feel terrible. But his parents are being so generous, and they're making a big family weekend out of it. You've met his family like twice, I said, unable to keep the hurt from my voice. There was a long pause. 3 times, actually. We had dinner with them last week. Last week? When? Another pause. Wednesday. After my doctor's appointment. The appointment I'd rearranged my entire work schedule to drive her to, only to get a last-minute text that she'd found another ride. I see, I said quietly. Don't be like that, Ava. Logan says I need to establish boundaries with you, that I let you take over too much. The words were like a slap. Take over? Mia, I've just been trying to help. I know, and I appreciate it. I do. But maybe Logan's right. Maybe I need to start making more decisions without consulting you first. I wanted to argue, to remind her of everything I'd done. But the crack between us was widening, and I feared pushing would only make it worse. Okay, I finally said, whatever you need. But as I hung up, I couldn't shake the feeling that what Mia needed and what Logan wanted had become dangerously entangled. And somehow, in the process, I had been recast from devoted sister to domineering villain. The foundation we'd built over 20 years was starting to crumble, and I had no idea how to repair it, or if Mia even wanted me to try. Then I overheard something I wasn't supposed to. 6 weeks before the wedding, I was still clinging to hope that the distance between Mia and me was temporary, just wedding stress mixed with Logan's influence. We'd weather this storm like we had all the others. After all, we were sisters. Blood. The only real family each other had left. That's what I told myself as I pulled up to Mia's apartment building with boxes of handcrafted table decorations I'd spent 3 weekends assembling. Glass lanterns with delicate gold filigree and LED candles that Mia had fallen in love with in a bridal magazine. They weren't on the registry. They weren't even part of our original plan. But when Mia had shown me the picture, her eyes had lit up for the first time in weeks. "These would be perfect for the reception," she'd whispered. "But they're so expensive, and we're already over budget." So I made them myself. 64 lanterns, each one taking almost an hour to complete. My fingers were still bandaged from hot glue burns. I texted Mia from the parking lot, outside with a surprise. "Need help carrying boxes?" No response. After 10 minutes, I decided to bring at least one box up. She had mentioned she might be at a yoga class, but I had a key. I could leave the surprise and see her reaction later. I balanced the box carefully as I unlocked the door, hearing voices from inside. Mia was home after all. I was about to call out when Logan's words froze me in place. "Can't keep letting her control everything," he was saying, his voice low but intense. "The wedding, your schedule, even how you dress now. When does it end, Mia?" "It's not like that," Mia responded, her voice smaller than I was used to hearing. "Ava's just trying to help. She's always been there for me." "Help? Is that what you call it?" Logan scoffed. "She's using this wedding to buy control over your life. Can't you see that? She's turning you into her charity project." The box in my arms suddenly felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. "That's not fair," Mia said, but her protest sounded weak, uncertain. "Then why does she need to be involved in every decision? Why does everything have to go through her? Think about it, Mia. What kind of person drops 80 grand on someone else's wedding without expecting something in return? She's my sister. She's keeping you dependent on her. When was the last time you made a major decision without asking for her approval first?" Silence followed, and in that silence, my heart cracked. Not because of Logan's accusations, I'd expected those, but because Mia wasn't defending me. Not really. There was doubt in her hesitation. Mia finally said, "I don't want to hurt her feelings. She's done so much. And she makes sure you never forget it, doesn't she?" Logan's voice softened, taking on that persuasive tone I'd come to recognize. "Baby, I know you love your sister, but this relationship isn't healthy. My mom said the same thing. Ava's using her financial position to keep you under her thumb." I'd met Logan's mother exactly once, at their engagement dinner. A brittle woman with calculating eyes who'd looked at me like I was something stuck to the bottom of her designer shoe. "What am I supposed to do?" Mia asked, and the genuine distress in her voice cut me deeply. "The wedding's in 6 weeks. She's paying for everything. We could scale back. My parents would help. They can't afford what Ava's spending. So that's it? Her money is more important than your independence." Another silence, heavier this time. "No," Mia finally said, with a firmness that surprised me. "Of course not. But I can't just what? Stand up for yourself? For us? Mia, this is about our future. Do you want to start our marriage with your sister calling all the shots?" I didn't wait to hear her answer. I quietly set the box down outside the door, my hands shaking with a mixture of hurt and rage. Then I walked away, tears blurring my vision as I fumbled for my car keys. For 3 days, I didn't call Mia. I needed time to process what I'd heard, to sort through the tangle of emotions Logan's words had triggered. Anger, yes, but also a gnawing doubt. Was there any truth to what he said? Had I somehow, without realizing it, used my financial support to keep Mia dependent on me? I replayed our history in my mind. The college tuition I'd helped with. The rent I'd covered when she was between jobs. The credit card I'd paid off when she maxed it out during her find-herself phase. Had those acts of love actually been about control? No. I refused to believe that. I'd supported Mia because I wanted her to be happy, to have opportunities. Because after her parents died, I'd promised myself I would always take care of her. When Mia finally called, her voice was artificially bright. "Hey, stranger. Where have you been hiding?" "Just busy with work," I lied. "How are you?" "Good. Great, actually. The wedding stuff is really coming together." We chatted about trivial details, the weather, a movie she'd seen, her new haircut. The careful dance of 2 people avoiding the elephant in the room. Finally, I couldn't stand it anymore. Mia, we need to talk about something. Oh. Her tone immediately became guarded. I came by your place the other day to drop off a surprise. You did? I didn't see anything. I took a deep breath. I overheard you and Logan talking about me. The silence that followed was damning. What exactly did you hear? She finally asked, her voice tight. Enough to know that Logan thinks I'm trying to control your life. That I'm using the wedding to keep you dependent on me. Ava, is that what you think too? No. I don't know. Sometimes it feels like she stopped herself. Like what? Like I can't make any decisions without your input. Like everything has to meet your standards. The accusation stung because I could almost see how she'd arrived there. I was detail-oriented, a planner. Mia was not. I'd stepped in because that's what I'd always done. I never meant to make you feel that way, I said softly. I just wanted to give you the wedding of your dreams. I know, but maybe it became more about your vision than mine. Her words felt like a betrayal, a rewriting of everything I thought we'd shared. But I swallowed my hurt. If that's how you feel, I'll back off. This is your wedding, Mia. I'll support whatever decisions you make. Thank you. She sounded relieved, which only deepened my pain. That means a lot. When we hung up, I felt like a stranger had replaced my sister, someone who viewed my love as a burden, my help as interference. And I began to wonder if the wedding I'd poured my heart and savings into was actually driving us further apart instead of bringing us closer together. And just like that, I was no longer her sister. I was just a name on a receipt. The rehearsal dinner was scheduled for 7 p.m. at the Rosewood Hotel, a venue I'd booked and paid for months in advance. I arrived at 6:30, dressed in the navy blue cocktail dress Mia and I had picked out together during one of our last normal shopping trips. You're early, Mia's future mother-in-law, Victoria Kennedy, said when she spotted me in the hotel lobby. Her tone suggested I'd committed some sort of social faux pas. Just wanted to make sure everything was set up properly. I replied with a forced smile. Victoria's eyes traveled over me, assessing. Logan hired a professional event coordinator for tonight. Everything's under control. The words were a dismissal, but also a message. This isn't your show anymore. Inside the private dining room, round tables were arranged around a small dance floor, each one adorned with flowers that weren't the ones Mia and I had selected. The color scheme had changed too, from the soft blush and gold we'd planned to bold burgundy and navy. Logan's colors, I realized. His college sports team, or something equally important to him. I checked the place cards at the head table, looking for my name. It wasn't there. There must be a mistake, I muttered, scanning the other tables. I finally found my card at a table in the far corner, wedged between Logan's great Aunt Meredith, who was nearly deaf, and a college friend of his I'd never met. As far from the head table as physically possible while still being in the same room. My stomach nodded. This wasn't an oversight. This was deliberate. I was still standing there, place card in hand, when Mia entered with Logan. She looked beautiful in a white dress I hadn't seen before, her hair styled in an elegant updo. But her eyes skittered away when they met mine, and I knew instantly that whatever was about to happen, she was complicit in it. Ava, she said, her voice unnaturally high. You're here already. Where else would I be? I tried to keep my tone light. Hey, there seems to be a mix-up with the seating arrangements. Logan's arm tightened around Mia's waist. No mix-up, he said smoothly. We had to make some last-minute adjustments. Last-minute adjustments that put me at the furthest table from you both? Mia glanced at Logan, then back at me. It's not a big deal, Ava. The room's not that large. But it was a big deal, and we both knew it. The head table was reserved for parents, maid of honor, best man, the people closest to the couple. By placing me at the outer edges, they were sending a clear message about where I stood. Speaking of adjustments, Logan continued, we've made a few changes to the ceremony as well. Just streamlining things. What does that mean? I asked, though dread was already pooling in my stomach. Mia fidgeted with her bracelet, a nervous habit from childhood. It means, well, the processional was getting too complicated. So, We've simplified it. Simplified how exactly? My mother will be escorting Mia down the aisle, Logan interjected, since your father isn't here to do it. The blow landed exactly as intended. Our father had been gone for 2 decades, but his absence still ached, especially in moments like these. But we discussed this, I said to Mia, trying to keep the hurt from my voice. You said you wanted me to walk with you, to represent our parents. Mia wouldn't meet my eyes. Victoria has been like a mother to me these past few months. It just makes sense. Victoria, who had met Mia exactly 4 times and had once referred to her as Logan's little artist girlfriend, with barely concealed disdain. I see. It was all I could manage without my voice breaking. And one more thing, Logan added, almost eagerly now. We've revised the photo schedule. Family portraits will be immediate family only. You'll be included in the extended group shots later. Immediate family. The phrase echoed in my head like a slap. After 20 years of being everything to each other, parent, sister, confidant, support system, I had been demoted to extended family. Mia, I said, ignoring Logan entirely. Can we talk? Privately? She hesitated, and in that hesitation, I saw how completely I'd lost her. Anything you need to say to my fiancé, you can say in front of me, Logan said, his tone sugar-coated but his eyes cold. Actually, I can't. I stood my ground. This is between Mia and me. For a moment, I thought she might refuse. But then she nodded slightly. 5 minutes, she said to Logan, who reluctantly released his grip on her waist. We stepped into the hallway, the muffled sounds of arriving guests behind us. What's happening here? I asked once we were alone. You're cutting me out of your wedding. A wedding I'm paying for, by the way. Mia flinched. There it is. You're using the money to control me, just like Logan said.
What? No.
I mentioned the money because it shows how ridiculous this is. I've done everything to make this day perfect for you, and suddenly I'm being treated like an unwelcome guest. You've done everything your way, Mia countered, a flash of anger breaking through her hesitation. Every decision, every detail, it all had to pass the AVA test. That's not true, and you know it, isn't it? The venue had to be the one you thought was best. The flowers, the menu, even my dress, you were right there influencing every choice. Because you asked me to be. Because we planned this together. Mia shook her head. I never got a chance to figure out what I really wanted. You stepped in, like you always do, and took over. The unfairness of it stunned me into momentary silence. I had devoted months, years, to making Mia happy, to giving her everything she needed. And now she was recasting that devotion as control. Logan helped me see it, she continued. How I've always been in your shadow. Always the little sister who needs rescuing. Well, I don't need rescuing anymore. I'm starting my own family now. With a man who's isolating you from the only real family you have left, I said quietly. Her eyes hardened. That's exactly the kind of toxic thinking he warned me about. You can't stand that I have someone else to rely on now. Someone besides you. Mia, please. This isn't you talking. I know you're upset, but let's not say things we can't take back. I'm not upset. I'm finally seeing clearly. She straightened her shoulders. Logan and I have decided that it's best if you take a step back from the wedding. You can still attend, of course. We appreciate your financial contribution, but emotionally, we need some distance. Financial contribution. As if I'd written a check and walked away, instead of pouring my heart and soul into every detail of this wedding. Before I could respond, the door opened and Logan appeared. Everything okay out here? The photographer wants to get some pre-dinner shots. We're fine, Mia said, already moving toward him. We're done. The finality in her voice told me everything I needed to know. In her mind, we were indeed done. Not just with this conversation, but with the relationship as I'd known it. You've done enough, Logan added with a smirk as he led her away. Time to let Mia live her own life. I stood alone in the hallway, the weight of what had just happened crushing my chest. 20 years of being everything to each other, erased in a 5-minute conversation. 20 years of love and sacrifice, rewritten as a story of control and manipulation. And just like that, I was no longer her sister. I was just a name on a receipt. I watched my sister get married from a distance, literally and emotionally. I almost didn't attend. After the rehearsal dinner, I drove home in a daze, tears streaming down my face. I sat in my parked car for nearly an hour, engine off, staring at nothing. My phone buzzed several times. Alex, checking in, but I couldn't bring myself to answer. What would I even say? My sister has disowned me, but still expects me to foot the $80,000 bill for her wedding? Part of me wanted to cancel everything. One call to the credit card company, a dispute of charges, an explanation of fraud, and I could bring the whole fairy tale crashing down. No venue, no flowers, no 5-tier cake with hand-painted sugar flowers that had cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. But I couldn't do it. Not to Mia. Despite everything, I couldn't be the villain Logan had cast me as. So instead, I set my alarm for 6 a.m., put on the dress I'd bought specifically for my sister's special day, and did my makeup through swollen eyes. I would go. I would smile. I would play my assigned role in this theater of cruelty. And then I would let my sister go. The ceremony was scheduled for 11 a.m. at the Bellamy Estate, a historic mansion with meticulously maintained gardens and a view of the river. I'd fallen in love with it the moment the event coordinator had shown us the space. So had Mia. It was the one thing we'd agreed on instantly. "Can you imagine walking down those stairs?" She'd whispered, pointing to the grand staircase that led from the bridal suite to the garden. "It's like something from a movie." I arrived at 10:30, slipping in quietly through a side entrance to avoid the wedding party. Guests were already being seated in rows of white chairs on the lawn. The string quartet I'd hired was playing softly in the background. Everything was as we'd planned. The flower arrangements, the hanging lanterns in the trees, the satin ribbons marking the aisle. Everything except my place in it. I chose a seat in the very last row, far enough to the side that I wouldn't be immediately visible to anyone at the altar. A few guests glanced at me curiously. They'd expected to see me up front, I supposed, or with the bridal party, but no one approached. Until Caroline did. Caroline had been Mia's roommate in college, one of the few friends who'd stuck around after Mia's find-yourself phases and career false starts. "Ava." She slid into the seat beside me, confusion etched on her face. "What are you doing back here? Shouldn't you be getting ready with Mia?" I forced a smile. Change of plans. Mia wanted a more traditional arrangement. Caroline frowned. "That's weird. You two are joined at the hip. And after everything you've done for this wedding." "It's fine." I cut her off, not wanting to rehash the hurt. "Really? Today is about Mia being happy." "But please, Caroline, I'd rather not discuss it." She studied me for a moment longer, then squeezed my hand. "Okay, but I'm sitting with you. No one should be alone at their sister's wedding." The ceremony began exactly at 11. Logan and his groomsmen took their places at the altar, a beautiful wrought iron structure draped with the blush roses and white peonies Mia had initially loved. The bridesmaids walked down the aisle one by one, none of them making eye contact with me. They knew, I realized. They all knew I'd been excommunicated. Then the music changed, and every head turned toward the house. There stood Mia, radiant in her wedding gown, the one I'd paid for, with its delicate beading and cathedral-length train. And beside her, looking smugly triumphant, was Victoria Kennedy, ready to walk my sister down the aisle. Something broke inside me in that moment. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet, final snap of something essential. I'd lost her, truly lost her. From my place at the back, I watched as Mia glided down the aisle, her face glowing with a happiness I hadn't seen in months. She only had eyes for Logan, who stood waiting with a practiced expression of awe that didn't quite reach his eyes. The ceremony itself was brief. They'd removed all the personal touches we'd planned, the readings from our parents' favorite books, the memorial candle for Mom and Dad, the sister blessing I'd been meant to give. In their place were generic vows and Logan's college chaplain offering platitudes about marriage. Not once during the entire ceremony did Mia look my way. Not once did she acknowledge that her only sister was even present. When they were pronounced husband and wife, the crowd erupted in cheers. I clapped mechanically, feeling like an imposter in a life I'd helped build, but was no longer welcome to share. The reception was worse. I was seated at a table with distant acquaintances, people who clearly wondered why I was among them, but were too polite to ask. The table was so far from the main action that I could barely hear the toasts. Not that I needed to. My name wasn't mentioned once. Not by Mia's maid of honor, who thanked everyone who made this day possible. Not by Logan's best man, who praised both families coming together. Not by Logan himself, who spoke at length about starting fresh and leaving toxic influences behind. His eyes found mine across the room as he said it, a subtle victory lap. Several guests approached me throughout the evening, their confusion evident. "Why aren't you sitting with the family?" asked my mother's oldest friend, Judith. "Weren't you supposed to give a speech?" wondered one of Mia's college friends. "I thought you organized this whole thing," commented a distant cousin. To each, I gave the same rehearsed answer. "I'm just happy to be here for Mia's special day." But inside, I was anything but happy. I was invisible, erased from the narrative of my sister's life as thoroughly as if I'd never existed. The thousands of dollars I'd spent, the hundreds of hours I'd invested, the lifetime of love I'd given, all recast as a burden Mia had finally escaped. During the father-daughter dance, replaced with a mother-son dance featuring Logan and Victoria, I slipped outside onto the terrace for air. The sun was setting over the river, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold. It was beautiful, the perfect backdrop for the perfect wedding. A wedding I'd created but wasn't allowed to be part of. It's not right, you know. I turned to find Caroline beside me again, 2 glasses of champagne in hand. She offered me one. "What isn't?" I asked, though I knew. "This whole thing. You being pushed aside. After everything, Mia owes you more than this." I took a long sip of champagne, letting the bubbles numb my throat. People don't always get what they deserve, good or bad. "Have you tried talking to her?" "Really talking?" I nodded. "She's made her choice, Caroline. She's choosing the version of reality Logan has created. One where I'm the controlling villain and he's the hero who rescued her." Caroline looked skeptical. "That's not the Mia I know. It's not the Mia I knew either." I gazed back at the reception through the windows. Inside, Mia was dancing with Logan, her head on his shoulder, completely enveloped in her new world, a world that had no place for me. But maybe we never really knew her at all. As the night wore on, I watched my sister from afar, laughing, dancing, accepting congratulations. I looked for any sign of regret, any moment of searching the crowd for my face. There was none. By 9 p.m., I'd had enough. I slipped out without saying goodbye, doubting Mia would even notice I was gone. In my car, I found a wedding invitation I'd kept in the glove compartment. A beautiful thing, letterpress on thick cream paper. Together with their families, it read, "Mia Elizabeth Turner and Logan James Kennedy request the honor of your presence." Together with their families. As if mine hadn't been erased from the equation. I started the car and drove away from the celebration, leaving behind the dream wedding I'd paid for and the sister who no longer wanted me in her life. I lost a sister, but I gained something else, my boundaries. 2 weeks passed before the reality fully sank in. 2 weeks of numbness, of going through the motions at work, of ignoring concerned texts from friends who'd witnessed my humiliation. I kept expecting a call from Mia, an apology, an explanation, something to indicate she regretted what had happened. It never came. Instead, I received a honeymoon postcard with a generic "thanks for everything" scrawled beside both their signatures, as if I'd given them a toaster, not funded their entire wedding. 3 weeks after the wedding, Alex forced her way into my apartment with takeout and wine. "Enough isolation," she declared, setting down containers of Thai food. "Talk to me." I told her everything, the gradual estrangement, the accusations, the final betrayal at the rehearsal dinner. Saying it out loud made it more real, but also somehow more absurd. And they didn't even send a real thank you note. I finished with a hollow laugh. Just a postcard. Like an afterthought. Alex's expression darkened. They're gaslighting you, Ava. Logan's been manipulating Mia, turning her against you, and now they're both pretending you're the problem. She reached for my hand. But here's what I need to know. Are you ready to see this for what it is? Because until you do, you'll keep blaming yourself. Her words struck a chord. I had been blaming myself, wondering if I'd been too controlling, too involved, too maternal with my sister. But those doubts had been planted by Logan and nurtured by Mia's betrayal. I gave her everything, I whispered. My time, my money, my love. And she threw it away for a man who's isolating her from everyone who truly cares about her. That's what manipulators do, Alex said gently. They isolate their victims. And Mia's definitely his victim, even if she doesn't see it yet. So what do? You set boundaries. You protect yourself. And you accept that you can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. That night, after Alex left, I made a decision. I would write Mia one last letter. Not to beg for reconciliation, but to tell my truth. Then I would let her go. I wrote by hand, filling pages with memories of our childhood, our struggles after losing our parents, the bond one thought would never break. I acknowledged my flaws. Yes, I had been protective, sometimes overbearing, but never manipulative, never controlling in the way Logan had painted me. I wrote about the warning signs I'd seen in Logan, but had brushed aside for her sake. How he'd isolated her not just from me, but from all her old friends. How he'd made her dependent on him emotionally while remaining financially dependent on her, and by extension on me. I will always love you, Mia, I concluded. But I won't be your ATM while you treat me like a stranger. I won't fund a life that has no place for me in it. When you're ready to remember who you really are, who we really were to each other, I'll be here. But I deserve better than what happened at your wedding. And deep down, I think you know that. I mailed the letter, expecting nothing in return. And for a month, that's exactly what I got. Nothing. Then the rumors started reaching me. Logan had told multiple people that I'd tried to sabotage their wedding out of jealousy. That I demanded control over every aspect of the ceremony and reception. That I'd thrown a tantrum when Mia finally stood up to me. Hearing these lies hurt, but they also clarified something. This wasn't about me. This was about Logan's need to isolate Mia, to rewrite her history, to make her entirely dependent on him. 6 weeks after the wedding, I started therapy. Not because I believed Logan's version of events, but because I needed to understand how I'd missed the signs of his manipulation. How I'd allowed my love for Mia to blind me to the danger she was in. You've been parentified, my therapist explained during our second session. You took on the role of Mia's parent at a young age, and that created an unhealthy dynamic, not because of anything you did wrong, but because children shouldn't have to be parents. I was just trying to take care of her, I said. Of course you were. And you did an amazing job. But that role became your identity. When Logan threatened it, you lost not just your sister, but your sense of purpose. It was a harsh truth, but one I needed to hear. For 20 years, I defined myself by my relationship to Mia as her protector, her provider, her safety net. Without that role, who was I? The answer, it turned out, was waiting to be discovered. I started small, taking a ceramics class I'd always been curious about, joining a hiking group, reconnecting with friends I'd neglected while planning Mia's wedding. I rediscovered parts of myself that had been dormant for years. My love of photography, my interest in architecture, my talent for bringing people together. 3 months after the wedding, I was sitting in a cafe, editing photos from a recent hike, when my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. I left him. Can we talk? My heart stopped.
Mia.
We met at a neutral location, a park bench overlooking the river. She looked thinner, paler, her usual vibrancy dimmed. When she saw me, she burst into tears. I'm so sorry, she sobbed. You were right about everything. Logan controlled every aspect of my life after we got married. He monitored my phone, my spending, even what I wore. When I finally confronted him, she pulled up her sleeve, revealing a fading bruise. That's when I knew I had to leave. I wanted to say, I told you so. I wanted to rage at her for choosing him over me. I wanted to remind her of the wedding where she discarded me like unwanted baggage. Instead, I just held her while she cried. Our reconciliation wasn't immediate or simple. Trust, once broken, doesn't mend easily. We started with coffee dates, short conversations where we carefully navigated our new reality. I helped her find a divorce lawyer and a therapist of her own. But I also maintained the boundaries I'd established. I wouldn't be her financial backup plan, her instant solution to every problem. I need to know. I asked her during one of our careful reunions, did you ever really believe I was trying to control you? Or was that all Logan? She stared at her coffee for a long time before answering. It started with him planting doubts. But then, I think I wanted to believe it. It was easier to paint you as controlling than to admit I was with someone who didn't love me for me, who saw me as a pathway to your money. Her honesty hurt, but it was necessary for both of us. 6 months after Mia left Logan, we sat together in my living room, looking through old photo albums. Pictures of us as children, as teenagers, as young women navigating life without parents. Do you think we can ever get back what we had? She asked quietly. I thought about the past year, the wedding, the betrayal, the painful growth that followed. No, I said honestly. We can't go back, but maybe we can build something new, something healthier. She nodded, understanding the truth in my words.
We had both changed.
The old patterns, me as the protector, she as the protected, would never serve us again. I lost a sister at that wedding, it's true, but in the painful aftermath, I discovered something equally valuable. My own identity, separate from my role as Mia's keeper. And Mia, through her own difficult journey, was finally finding hers. Love without respect is just emotional debt. I'd paid that debt for 20 years without realizing it. Now, as Mia and I carefully rebuilt our relationship on new terms, I understood that true love, between sisters, between partners, between any two people, must be founded on mutual respect. I didn't lose a sister. I let go of a version of her that no longer existed. And in doing so, I found a version of myself I never knew was waiting to emerge.